Kethevane, just tell us a bit more about what happened last night in Kenosha.
Well, there was a third night of protests and some violence last night in Kenosha, but really the focal point of the violence last night is around this video that has surfaced, and a video where you see an armed white man carrying a rifle who is running down one of the streets around close to a gas station, and you see protesters following him, with some people saying that he may have shot someone, because apparently there were already gunshots before that video started. And you see that person with that rifle running, tripping on his own, falling to the ground, and the protesters start coming at him, seemingly to try to grab that person. And at that moment, the armed white man, turns around to fire his rifle on the protesters, who are mostly black. One of those protesters falls to the ground. We don't know if that person is one of the two people who died overnight, or if that person is one of the seriously injured, but at least one person falling to the ground. And then that armed man gets back up, starts running again, and you see big trucks of police, of law enforcement, passing by him as he is standing there with his arms lift up, and they just pass by him and go on that road while this armed man leaves. Now, the local sheriff has said that they were looking for that man who was seen on that video. The sheriff also saying that he did confirm the presence of groups of vigilantes in that area overnight, though he didn't confirm whether that man was part of the groups that they were looking at. But this situation is very tense, and the sheriff saying that he did not want private citizens to take matters into their own hands, and that this was the law enforcement's job.
Okay, and of course all of this coming 3 months after the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And I'm just wondering, Kethevane, where you see things heading to from here.
Well, on the case of Jacob Blake, people are, of course, asking for justice. Now, those two police officers have been put on administrative leave. You can imagine that the protesters, as well as the family, are asking for much more. The Department of Justice of Wisconsin has opened an investigation. They're saying that they're going to come back with a report onto whether or not to file charges within the next 30 days. Meanwhile, the family is already saying that they're contemplating filing a civil lawsuit, at least, for unnecessary, unjustified use of deadly force on Jacob Blake. But the bigger picture is, of course, as you mentioned, those protests for the death of George Floyd. And those protests had sort of died down a little bit over the past few weeks because, of course, also of the pandemic. But the shooting of Jacob Blake seems to have reignited these protests. We've seen protests in New York, in D.C., and other cities across the United States. We've seen also NBA players, basketball players, threatening to boycott the playoffs because of the situation, because they feel that this is happening again, that George Floyd was not the end, that things are not changing fast enough. And it has to be pointed out that there is a big march planned for Friday. People thought that there wouldn't be that many people, but maybe this latest shooting is going to bring new breath into these protests.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that update from DC. France 24's Kethevane Gorjestani. Thank you.